tonight?
At first, I was very surprised because he's a healthy scratch. You don't usually see kind of starting caliber players be healthy scratches. So on the surface, it's a little bit surprising. But when you look into it a little bit, when you look at his recent performances, I guess it's really not all that surprising. I mean, Mike Gillislee, since having those 3 touchdowns in the season opener against Kansas City, really hasn't been particularly productive. We've been saying all season where he kind of looks like he's just on the verge of breaking off one of those long runs, and he just hasn't done it so far. I mean, last game against the Chargers, 11 carries, 34 yards, not really all that productive. His playing time has gone down as well as Rex Burkhead and Deion Lewis have kind of emerged from that running back group with James White as the pass catching threat. So when you look at it that way, not all that surprising, I guess. He wasn't a part of the game plan tonight, and with Martellus Bennett coming back in, they have 4 tight ends active, so somebody's got to come out. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. It is a little surprising though.
Well, one that is not a surprise is Marcus Cannon. We know he's been dealing with an injury, and it could be a major factor in this game, though. How do you think the Patriots will do without him and Von Miller coming at them? Because he was able to neutralize Von Miller the last time the Patriots played the Broncos, so this definitely could be a factor tonight that he is out.
Absolutely, yeah. Von Miller is one of the best, if not the best, pass rushers in the entire NFL, and Marcus Cannon really shut him down last year. I mean, I think the Patriots' game plan helped him out in that regard, but he was on Von Miller for most of that game last December. Von Miller finished with 0 QB hits, 0 sacks, was basically a non-factor in the entire game. Now Von Miller is going to be going against a backup in Adrian Waddle, who really didn't play at all last season. He played 1 total snap, was really at the bottom of that depth chart. And Waddle has actually played pretty well so far this year in the 2 games where he's been kind of thrust into duty. He played pretty well against the Houston Texans, and then did so again against the Chargers 2 weeks ago. Both of those teams have some very, very talented pass rushers, but even Von Miller is going to be a step up from those guys. So that's absolutely going to be a big matchup to watch in this game. And fortunately for the Patriots, I'm pretty sure they've known basically all week that Marcus Cannon wasn't going to be able to go. So they've been able to kind of adjust their game plan, adjust everything around Waddle being in there rather than Cannon. But yeah, that's definitely going to be the big matchup to watch today.
One interesting thing to note that went down on Wednesday, I know you were right there, I was also listening on the conference call when Von Miller called Tom Brady the GOAT and then quickly backtracked and tried to talk himself out of it. It was like a major insert foot in mouth as he tried to say that Peyton Manning is also the GOAT. But then there were he was really waffling on the issue. He was really trying to talk himself out of a hole because he said multiple times that Brady is and then isn't the GOAT and that Manning's also the GOAT, and it made no sense.
Got to go with his guy though. I respect it. He played with Peyton Manning for 3 or 4 years. I know where he's coming from.
I see where he's coming from too, trying to correct himself. But words once spoken never die. So once the words came out, hey, you said it, can't take it back. So it definitely goes to show that he obviously has respect for Tom Brady. And this game certainly is not a predictable one tonight, even though the Broncos have a pretty terrible record and are on a rough slide right now. The Patriots always struggle at Mile High, but right now let's just send it out to Mile High. And Doug Kyed is standing by, where it sounds like there are some Patriots fans in attendance, perhaps.
Thanks, guys. It's a little quiet here at Sports Authority Field at Mile High, but come game time, this place will absolutely be rocking. It could be filled with Broncos fans and Patriots fans. I was at a Patriots fan meetup last night, and there was a very big collection of Patriots supporters there, ready to come here to this stadium to cheer on Tom Brady and the Patriots. There is a pretty amusing storyline going on in this game. That is Martellus Bennett, who was waived by the Green Bay Packers with a failure to disclose physical condition designation on Wednesday. He was claimed by the Patriots on Thursday. He practiced on Friday, and he's very likely going to play in this game tonight for the Patriots. That's after missing 2 weeks of practice with the Green Bay Packers. He said in an Instagram rant against the Packers that he was going to have surgery when he was still with the Packers. I don't know exactly what changed in his shoulder injury that he suffered from, that torn rotator cuff, where he doesn't need surgery now that he's with the Patriots. I think that a lot of that has to do with what quarterback he has with both teams. Aaron Rodgers obviously suffered the injury with the Packers. I think that, once his starting quarterback went down, there was a little bit less of an incentive to keep playing there for Green Bay. But now that he's back here with Tom Brady, that shoulder's feeling a lot better now for the Patriots tight end. Obviously, the Patriots did have Martellus Bennett last season in their Super Bowl run. They won a Super Bowl with him. Without Rob Gronkowski, we barely saw those two players healthy at the same time. So the Patriots might be able to deploy some 2 tight end sets in this game, maybe even some 3 tight end sets, depending on whether Dwayne Allen or Jacob Hollister is active for this game. Hey, the Patriots could even have 4 tight ends active for this game. Really depends on how Martellus Bennett is feeling, how that shoulder is. He was on this offense last year, so he definitely knows the system. I don't think there's a whole lot of acclimating for him to do to get back ready to be on the field here. And he'll likely only take on certain situations. Maybe they wanted to get him ready for red zone situations when they get near the goal line. Patriots offense has definitely struggled over the last few weeks when they've gotten inside the red zone, when they've been near the goal line. That red zone offense could struggle even more now since Chris Hogan is out of this game with a shoulder injury. His shoulder was still in a sling. It's unclear whether he made the trip to Denver, but he is definitely out of this game. Some other guys that we will not see are starting right tackle Marcus Cannon. That means that Adrian Waddle will take over at that right tackle spot, and he will really have to block Von Miller, the Denver Broncos' best pass rusher. Also won't see defensive tackle Malcolm Brown. Right behind me, we're seeing Ricky Jean-Francois warming up, so that could be an indication that he could fill in some of those snaps that Malcolm Brown usually plays for the Patriots, but likely going to see Lawrence Guy and Alan Branch taking most of the reps there at defensive tackle for the Patriots. Also not real sure if we're going to see Eric Rowe, the Patriots cornerback, in this game, and he had a groin injury. It really limited him for a few weeks there. He hasn't been playing for the last 4 or 5 weeks at this point, and there's really no rush to get him back on the field because the Patriots cornerbacks have played so well in his absence. That's Johnson Batamosi, Jonathan Jones. It seems like we will see Stephon Gilmore back in this game. He's been out with a concussion and ankle injury for a while, and I think the smart move here for the Patriots would be to have Stephon Gilmore shadowing Demaryius Thomas. That would leave Malcolm Butler on Emmanuel Sanders. Then whoever that number 3 cornerback is, whether it's Jonathan Jones, whether it is Johnson Batamosi, there's less pressure on that guy to cover the Broncos' number 3 receiver, whoever they choose that to be in this game. But based on records, this should be an easy game for the Patriots to win, but they do always kind of struggle here at Mile High Stadium. Brock Osweiler will be starting for the Broncos. Patriots did struggle against him in 2015, but Brock Osweiler is in a much different mental headspace at this point in his career. He has since signed a big contract with the Texans, traded to the Browns. Texans actually had to trade a 2nd-round pick just to get rid of him. Then the Browns released him, and Browns quarterback situation is always a mess. So when you're a quarterback released in the Browns, that means you're not so good. Now he's back here in Denver, back where he started, and just don't know how much confidence he still has in his play at this point. Not sure how much confidence the Broncos have in his play at this point, but he's the guy in this game. Trevor Siemian didn't work out for them. Paxton Lynch still isn't healthy, so Brock's the guy, and he's the one who's going to be tasked to beat the Patriots, and I do not see that happening. I actually see a pretty big victory here for the Patriots. Maybe not a blowout, but a very a positive win, and something that will be pretty clear, I think, from the start. I just can't see the Broncos offense keeping up with the Patriots offense. So let's head back to you guys at the studio.
All right, Zach, so as Doug just explained, the whole saga that went down, if you will, I don't know what other word to use for it. It just was surprising to hear that Bennett was cut from the Packers and then soon after added to the Patriots roster, and that he couldn't practice with the Packers for 2 weeks, but then magically is now going to be out in the field for the Patriots tonight. The whole quarterback situation does make sense, but my question to you is, how well do you think he'll be able to do? Because he was just added to the roster this week, but he did play with the team last year. So there's that familiarity with the Patriots system in their playbook, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a situation where, with someone like Philip Dorsett, where it takes him a while, multiple weeks, even months, to kind of fully grasp the playbook. Martellus Bennett was here all last season. He was really their number 1 tight end for most of last season, with Rob Gronkowski being out with that back injury. And I think that's definitely why they felt comfortable slotting him back into the lineup just 4 or 5 days after he was brought back to the team. Yeah, really strange situation. I mean, we haven't gotten a chance to actually talk to Martellus Bennett yet since he arrived back in New England, but he went on a pretty lengthy Instagram story tirade against the Packers the other day, basically saying their team doctor did not have his best interests at heart. And he was going through this whole thing where the team doctor was forcing him to play, and he didn't want to play, and he wanted to get surgery. But now that he's here, he's active tonight, and it doesn't sound like he's getting surgery. He's going to play through whatever ailment that he has. Very strange situation. It's very easy to look at it and say, he saw Aaron Rodgers get hurt. He was saying, I'm having no part of Brett Hundley. Get me out of here. I want to go back to a team that can win. So that's what it looks like on the surface. We'll probably know more, hopefully get kind of a better grasp of the situation after we are able to talk to Martellus. But very strange situation, and it's worked out pretty well for the Patriots.
Yeah, the Patriots are almost definitely better positioned to win a Super Bowl this season than the Packers are now. Absolutely. Without Aaron Rodgers. But Bennett is dealing with sounds like what is a torn rotator cuff, which can be serious. But as far as concerns about him being able to play and really make an impact on this team, I mean, he did play through a lot last season that I feel like were injuries that other guys may have been sidelined with. So I feel like he does have the toughness to kind of just play through a tough injury if it's not going to exacerbate the injury further.
For sure, yeah. I know most people's view of Martellus Bennett is of kind of a goofy, eccentric guy, which he is, but he's also a very, very tough player. I mean, this guy played through, I think it was a knee injury, an ankle injury. He was basically getting banged up in every single game last season, and he pretty much never left the field. I mean, especially when Rob Gronkowski went down, he was there basically every play, every game, didn't miss a single game despite all those injuries. So he's definitely a guy that can play through some things that might sideline other players, and I think that's definitely going to help the Patriots in that regard, because it doesn't sound like he's 100%. He basically can't be 100% if any part of this story is true. So he's definitely going to be a little banged up, maybe not quite as physically productive as he could be, but I mean, it's got to be an upgrade over Dwayne Allen so far, because Dwayne Allen has literally given them nothing this season, production-wise.
Yeah, 0 catches for him so far. What do you think this means for him in his future? Do you think he's in danger of being cut now by the Patriots, or I mean, what will they do with him? He's
got to be in danger of being cut, I guess, but it does say that it says they still have a little bit of faith in him, the fact that they didn't cut him when they brought back Martellus Bennett. Now, that might be a situation where they want to make sure Bennett is actually healthy and actually can play and isn't going to go out in his first game and then tweak his shoulder and end up being out for a long time. Then you're left with just Rob Gronkowski and Jacob Hollister. So it might just be for insurance purposes. But yeah, I mean, he's on thin ice. He's been on thin ice for a couple weeks now. The fact that he's not even being targeted, and he's really not even on the field. Dwayne Allen hasn't been targeted since week 4, obviously has no catches, as we said, and really hasn't played much. He's played basically fewer than 20% of the snaps for pretty much the last month. So he's not even being on the field in a lot of these running situations. So he's on thin ice, like I said. If the Patriots were gonna, I guess it's a good sign to him that he hasn't gotten cut yet, but I could see it coming any day or I could see him staying on the team throughout the season. So he's definitely in a tough position right now.
Do you think that Bennett being back will help alleviate the absence of Chris Hogan, because he has been a reliable target for Brady this season, and he is, of course, out tonight, which is a tough hit for the Patriots offense. So will Bennett be able to help with that at all?
It absolutely should. I think that's what the Patriots are hoping for, because Chris Hogan's really been probably their best red zone threat this season. He has 5 touchdowns. I believe that's tied with Gronk for first on the team. And the Patriots as a whole have just been terrible in the red zone basically over the last month. Pretty much, ironically, since they kind of turned around their season in week 4 and went on that 4-game winning streak, throughout that entire time, they've been very, very bad in the red zone. They've been getting down there a lot. They've been getting points out of it. They've been getting a lot of field goals and whatnot, but they haven't been punching the ball into the end zone. I think having somebody like Bennett in there could really help in that regard.
So even though they do have him, and it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do right out of the gates, do you think that they will run a more run-heavy offense tonight specifically?
They could. I don't know, but I mean, Denver's defense is very good. I mean, it's very good against the pass. It's very good against the run too. I think they're gonna vary it. Maybe you'll see a little bit more running back heavy offense, I'd say. Maybe you could see a little bit more of James White, maybe some Rex Burkhead out of the backfield. But they do, even with Chris Hogan out, they still do have plenty of weapons for Tom Brady. They've got Danny Amendola, I would assume, is going to get an increased workload tonight. Maybe Philip Dorsett, who only has 4 catches this season, I believe. When Danny Amendola was out in week 2, you really saw Philip Dorsett's usage kind of rise, as you would expect for a guy who's 4th on that receiver depth chart. So the Patriots still do have options, but they are going to have to replicate what Chris Hogan has brought to them this season. been one of their most reliable pass catchers. So it's definitely going to be a big hole.
I like the way you put that, a running back heavy offense, because James White is the Patriots' leading receiver going into tonight. So I believe 43 catches, I think he
43, yeah. He's on pace for, I believe he's on pace to set the franchise record in catches by a running back. He had 60 last season, which was the most by a running back in the Bill Belichick era. He's on pace for 86, I believe, this year. So very, very productive guy. And like you said, he does lead the team in that category.
Yeah, so running back heavy, even if the game's not being played on the ground, technically.
Yes.
Looking on the other side of the ball, Stephon Gilmore is back. He was still listed on the injury report with the concussion this week, but he is active tonight. What do you expect to see from him after, of course, we've talked ad nauseum about the struggles he's had earlier in the season and how he did play well against the Bucs, but then now has been out for a few weeks. So in terms of needing to shake the rust or just how he'll be utilized, what do you think we'll see tonight?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of predict what we're going to see from Stephon Gilmore, because he did, the most recent game he played in Week 5 in Tampa Bay was easily his best game of the season. He really struggled for that first month of the season, really kind of turned it around. He was very good against Mike Evans in that game down in Tampa, and then he's been out for the last 3 games. So it's hard to, are we going to see the kind of player that we saw against Tampa Bay, or are we going to see the guy early in the season who just kind of looked completely lost out there? I do think the Patriots might use him similar to the way they used him in that Tampa Bay game, where they just kind of stick him on Demaryius Thomas, because Demaryius Thomas is a bigger, stronger receiver than let Malcolm Butler follow around Emmanuel Sanders. That's kind of what the Patriots have done a little bit in years past against the Broncos. Logan Ryan shut down Demaryius Thomas in 2 consecutive games back in 2015, I believe it was. So I think that would probably be the easiest way to do it, because it does lessen the strain on Gilmore, who hasn't been out there in a while, and it just might be the smartest way to play this Denver team, especially because they've got Brock Osweiler at quarterback. He's not really going to beat you with his arm all that much. I mean, he's not a guy that you have to make things too complicated to play against.
So we talked about this earlier this week, that Bill Belichick did say he'd be looking back at that film from when Osweiler beat the Patriots back in 2015. How much do you think Belichick will take that into account as opposed to last week's game against the Eagles in preparing to take on another Brock Osweiler captained offense this week?
Oh, I'm sure it's less of a factor than the current tape, because obviously that was a very different, or I don't know if I'd say very different, but that was a different Broncos team outside of just the quarterback. But Brock Osweiler, his career has really kind of been on a downslide ever since that. That was his first start. He started for a little while the rest of that season before Peyton Manning came back and replaced him. Then obviously went to Houston, was a disaster in Houston, went to Cleveland, didn't even see the field. Now he's back in Denver and sat on the bench for a while behind Trevor Siemian, and now he's back in the starting lineup. Didn't really look like a particularly good NFL quarterback last week against Philadelphia. The Eagles are a very good team. They do have a very, very good defense. So it's not like he was playing against the Cleveland Browns out there. But until he proves that he can replicate kind of even what he showed flashes of early in his career, he's not a quarterback that scares me.
The point that you made about this being a very different team is very valid. This is Vance Joseph's team, who he is having the time of his life.
Not so much lately. Not so much lately.
But I mean, week 1, Vance Joseph, if he comes back. But it's not Kubiak's system, so it's not like Osweiler's returning to the system that he did do well in a couple years ago. But I did say that I feel like maybe if this is kind of Osweiler's last chance, last resort, maybe he's desperate, and if Joseph is able to make some tweaks that help Osweiler fit with his system better, maybe we see something very different than we saw with the Texans, because I felt like his lack of success in Houston was a lot him not fitting with what they were trying to do down there.
Yeah, he definitely didn't fit, and this is definitely going to be a desperate Broncos team as a whole. I mean, this team's lost 4 in a row. They've lost 5 of their last 6. They're basically, if they lose another game, basically they can't really lose the rest of the season if they want a hope of getting into the playoffs. They can maybe afford 1 or 2 losses over these last 8 games, and they're coming in against the Patriots team, who they always do play tough at home in Denver. But their offense has been really shaky lately. Their defense didn't look good, and their defense is the strength of their team. They just gave up 50 points last week. Really, everything is going against the Broncos right now. So you would expect them to come out highly motivated, highly dedicated in this game, because really, if a loss here could kind of sink their season.
And there could be jobs on the line. You just said, and it's a good point, I made the joke about Vance Joseph having the time of his life, and you said he's not really lately. I mean, what could this mean for him if this downward spiral continues?
I think he'll be fine. I mean, he's a first-year head coach. You give those guys a little bit of leeway. I think it would be premature to make any proclamations about Vance Joseph's job security. But I mean, as a team, this is a team that's used to winning. I mean, John Elway all the way up the top. He's obviously one of the he's a Super Bowl quarterback from his playing days, and he still thinks with that mentality. So Denver isn't used to being a mediocre team. So they're going to want to try to get back up to that playoff contender status as soon as they can, but they're just not there right now.
Well, just given the Patriots and Tom Brady's record in Denver, I feel like tonight is just very unpredictable, and it will be interesting to see what happens. Definitely we'll have our eyes on Gilmore and on Bennett to see how they do, because that will be important moving forward. But other than that, I feel like there's not much in terms of, we always talk about litmus tests in terms of what tonight will say about the Patriots in terms of the rest of the season. Because I feel like if they lose, you chalk it up kind of. I mean, they shouldn't lose, but I feel like we'll all kind of say, oh, well, they always lose in Denver.
They do always lose in Denver. I mean, they're 3-7 in Denver since Tom Brady became starting quarterback back in 2001. But this is a team they should beat. I mean, this is I don't know if they're quite Tebow status, but this is not a good Broncos team. This is not the Broncos from 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, you look at the games. My favorite stat from this week: the games that the Patriots have won, Tom Brady has won in Denver. The opposing Broncos quarterbacks: Trevor Siemian, Tim Tebow, Danny Cannell. I mean, Osweiler has beaten them once, but I think he's more on that level than up toward a Peyton Manning or even a Kyle Orton or Jake Plummer or anybody like that. So this is a game the Patriots should win. I think it's going to be tough. I'm not expecting a blowout or anything, but this is definitely a game they should win.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. Keep it on NESN.com throughout the night for all the latest news.